Hello and welcome to a short look at Brothers, a new game from Starbreeze Studios in collaboration with Swedish filmmaker Joseph Fares. This is a game that's been around for a little while on Xbox Live Arcade, courtesy of the Summer of Arcade lineup for this year, but it's only come to PC just yesterday, September 3rd. I've been looking forward to it for quite some time, so I picked it up immediately, and I was not at all disappointed. I'm actually quite taken with it. It was a wonderful experience playing through it in a single sitting yesterday. It's only about 3 hours long, so that's quite doable. But I'd like to take a little time now to try to show you a little bit of what I think makes the game so special. And we'll begin by taking a look at the prologue so you can get a feel for the presentation, and then we'll move ahead to some gameplay later in the game. I don't want to give anything away, but I think it's important to see what the gameplay is like once things have picked up a bit.
Nayi! Nayi! Ata! Ata, Nayi! Ata!
Cutscenes throughout the game are really spectacular. Everything has a very gentle feel to it. There's not a lot of very fast-paced action in cutscenes. They leave that to the gameplay for the most part. The cutscenes are rather character moments, dramatic, intimate beats, and oftentimes they do very interesting things with cameras. Actually, everything has this kind of slow, sweeping look to it. The camera is always moving very gently, but a lot of times it's used to interesting effect to show you things that are not really there that the characters may be experiencing. I don't want to say much more than that. Now, the way the gameplay works, the core control concept here is that each of the characters, the little brother on the right and the big brother on the left, is controlled using one of the thumbsticks on the Xbox 360 controller, and they each also have use of their respective triggers for contextual actions. And I think that this is a very clever way to open the game, having them both work together to move this wheelbarrow around, because it basically attaches them so that you only have to worry about moving in a single direction, as opposed to doing something like this where I'm just steering them all over the place, because that would be a little overwhelming to start out with, I think. So I think it's a smart decision to just start with the simplicity of moving them together. So basically the premise of the game is that the two brothers' father is sick, and we're going to embark upon a grand adventure to find a cure for him. It's probably a little silly looking to watch someone play this, because there's a certain amount of clumsiness involved when you have to control the two characters independently. It's certainly... No, don't go down there. No, oh, I did that again. I'm always doing that. It can certainly be challenging to control them independently. And that, in fact, is where most of the game's challenge lies. It's not a particularly difficult game. You experience many new implementations of the control mechanic as you progress throughout the game. There's always a new set piece. There's always a new idea. And they do develop the ideas gradually, but they're never truly difficult. The idea of the game really is for you to experience the journey. They don't want you to be flummoxed by any particular puzzle. They don't want you to encounter a situation where you just simply don't know how to get past it. Rather, the aim, I think, is for you to quickly intuit the correct course of action in any given situation you encounter, and it feels good. It feels very good to just constantly be moving forward, encountering new things, and rather easily understanding what it is you need to do to get through them. It's the act of actually doing that which is fun and interesting because of the unique control concept. There's also a fair amount of experimentation and a small amount of exploration along the way as you encounter optional opportunities for the two characters to interact with aspects of the environment. So we're going to take a quick break here and transition to a slightly later part of the game, just to show off the gameplay once it's picked up a bit. Okay, what we're looking at now is a little bit more than halfway through the game. I think that it's useful to see something like this because you don't often get to see much more than the opening hour in press footage. This is quite a striking scene. We've come upon an inexplicable land of giants, a battlefield littered with corpses of enormous men. The adventure of the game is filled with these kinds of unexplained, fantastical situations. It's a really imaginative fantasy that doesn't always explain itself to you, and never really has to, because it does have a certain logical consistency to the world. The two characters have distinct personalities that come out often in the ways you interact with things. For example, early on, you might encounter some townspeople, and the little brother will act in a mischievous fashion, while the big brother will unfurl the map of their journey and ask for advice or ask for directions. The little brother, as evidenced by the opening flashback of their mother's death, is unable to swim. He's terrified of water. So one of the many ways in which the two brothers rely upon each other is for the little brother to cling to the older brother as they swim. This is a strong thematic point throughout the game. as I'm sure you've noticed by now, all of the dialogue in the game is done through a fictional made-up language. But it's a very credible made-up language. You'll often hear repeated words or phrases. For example, the brothers call each other Naya or Niall, and it does seem to be either their names or just maybe perhaps the word brother. I mean, you just get a sense for it. You don't have a concrete grasp of what these words mean, but the way they react to things as they happen in the environment is also spectacular. That was an unusual moment of embarrassment for the camera right there. Usually the camera is very, very strong. And it controls itself quite well. You of course have the freedom to move it, but most of the time it's quite smart about keeping both brothers in view, while often keeping the older brother on the left, which is better for your brain as you struggle to control them both. Now, I don't think that it comes through as well on a captured video. It doesn't look as vivid as it does on my monitor in real time as it's being played. But this is a gorgeous game. Absolutely beautiful colors and textures. Not all the highest resolution necessarily. I do play games at 2560 by 1440, and you know, the resolutions are not the highest, but who cares? It's all about the artistic direction, and it's absolutely gorgeous. Strewn throughout the world are these benches, which are very reminiscent of Eco. They allow you to just take a moment to take in the view. They are completely optional. They don't serve any kind of gameplay function, but they allow you to see a little bit of what's to come, and sometimes to see a little bit of what's behind you. And I really appreciate that. One of my favorite things about video games in general is the sense of the journey that they often have you on. And I think that taking time out to contemplate the path you've taken is a really important part of their experience. This is really, this land of fallen giants is really one of the most striking locales in the game, but there are many, many others. There's a lot of variety in terms of environments, and so many great, fantastic, imaginative places. Some which are quite dark, some which are exhilarating.
Oh, Nayi! Yeah!
Sometimes they argue with each other. It's really great. You get a very strong sense of the relationship between the two of them and the way they rely upon each other, as well as the way they react to things. It's a surprisingly compelling game. It really is. I mean, the controls are so simple, but so versatile at the same time, because they're contextual. And it's one of the most important things about the game is the way in which the control scheme is used for dramatic effect, especially later. Certainly something I will not be going into detail about, but the fact that each brother is basically controlled by one of your own two hands is really quite brilliant and vital to the emotional impact of the experience. That's all I want to say about that. But I think this is a remarkable and highly memorable adventure. Certainly something that I will remember for years, and I think that everyone should pick it up, especially it's only a bargain price of $15. I think that everyone should play this. It's extremely accessible. It's not difficult, but it's still quite rewarding to play, just because everything is always so new, and it's challenging to play, but it's not difficult to play. It keeps you engaged. It's just an experience worth having. And I'm very grateful for it. So... that concludes our look at Brothers from Starbreeze Studios. Thank you very much for watching, and I will see you next video.
يا صادي
كيف هذه؟
دا